Sure, let's go with that. Hey friends, Kevin here, and since we're dealing with the 50th anniversary of those three guys going and landing on the moon, that's about as close to being in a confined space for a long period of time as you can imagine people being, unless you put them in a van or a minivan together. So we're going to talk about how to travel and get along with other people in a confined space for long periods of time. I have traveled with someone for over a month before, and we're going to discuss with my special guest, say hi special guest,
Hi.
how you manage to pull this off, because I don't care how much you like somebody, you're going to start to get on each other's nerves after a while. So what tips can you think of?
Different interests. Go to the same place. I might want to hike. You might want to bike ride. That's a good time apart.
Yeah, I think you need to build time in every day. I think that's the secret. You need to build time in every day, even if it's just a half an hour, to be off and doing things apart from the person you're with. And this goes not just with a male traveling with a female or a female traveling with a male or whatever. I've been out 9 and 10 days at a time with my best friend from high school before. And we have got to have some time apart. Man, I love him, but you just can't be with somebody 24 hours a day like that. So, you know, when we pull into a place, I remember we were in a place down south once, and there was a battleship he wanted to do. I'd seen a battleship before, so he went and did it. I went for a run and ended up running out through the city and ended up at some little root beer stand in the middle of nowhere, probably in the bad part of town. But at least we were doing something different, and we were away from each other for a couple of hours. And I think that's the secret too. Even when you go into a town, sometimes you should separate and go your own way for a while and do different little museums and stops and what have you. And don't worry about that the other person might see something that you're going to miss or whatever, because I think that gives you something to talk about once you come back together, because you've done different things and had different experiences and talked to different people. And if you're together 24 hours a day, you're just not going to have anything to talk about, because you've done the same things constantly.
Well, it's like going to a museum. You like going and seeing old stuff, which is cool. But if there's space stuff around or scientific stuff around, that's where I'm going to go. I mean, we don't have to be together through the whole museum at the same time, looking at everything.
Right.
You do your thing, I'll do my thing.
Right. Yeah, I think that's one of the big secrets to getting along for periods of time. And even if you're at a campsite in the woods or you're camping on the beach or whatever, you need to just kind of get away from each other for at least for a while every day. Because there's going to be times in a van, and we have gone 5,000 miles coast to coast round trip essentially in a minivan. And if the weather gets bad, you know, you're trapped in there for a lot of hours together. So you need to have different interests. Okay, so we've taken care of how to get along a little bit by finding different things to do when you're out and about. But now, what happens when you're actually in the van in the evening, at night, or heaven forbid when weather gets bad? You know, you're dealing with an all-day rainstorm, and now you're trapped in that van from 4 o'clock in the afternoon, 6 o'clock in the afternoon, right up until midnight or whenever time you can conk out. What do you do to entertain yourself?
Are you asking me that?
Since you're the only one here, sure, let's go with that.
I do crossword puzzles.
Do crossword puzzles. You need to have a hobby. You need to have something you're doing, whether it's reading, whether it's working puzzles, whether it's listening to music, whether it's watching downloaded movies on something. You've got to have something to entertain yourself. And again, you're not going to both want to do the same thing for these long, repetitive hours.
Earphones will become your friend.
Yeah. When you're stuck just in that situation for 4 hours or 6 hours or 8 hours at a time. And trust me, if you've not been on the road together trying to stay in a vehicle every day, this is going to happen, right?
Yes.
I mean, it is. And weather especially will really put a knock into plans and force you into close quarters for long periods of time together. And when the weather does break, the first thing you need to do, kind of, again, is get away from each other for a while. You know, I think that's the other part. You know, those two pieces work together as far as being able to keep your sanity.
Well, hey, then there may be some people who can get along with each other like that all the time. I mean, we don't fight when we're together. It's just that you can't be cooped up in the same space, like in a van, for that long and not get on each other's nerves.
Yeah, and you have to figure this from a space standpoint, and you can say, well, if we're two people, and I know there's some people sitting out there watching this and thinking, well, we've been together, we've been married for 22 years, and me and Stan there, we've got no problems, or me and Mary there have no problems. Here's the difference. You and Stan or you and Mary, you live in a house together. What you need to do is go try to live in your bathroom together, because that's about the amount of space that you're going to have. And you need to go in there and shut the bathroom door and stay in there for 4 hours, 6 hours at a time with your books or your magazines or your music or your TV or whatever, and figure out if you're going to be able to get along in that kind of enclosed space. Because if you can't, it's going to be a nightmare for you when you get on the road.
Definitely. That's true, because when you live with somebody, you have another room, you can go outside, you can do whatever.
The attitude of the person or people you're traveling with also makes a great deal. You know, I can't imagine traveling with someone that's negative or the least bit that way. You know, you need to be a positive, upbeat person. You can't be the type of person that gets upset when things go wrong. Why are you making faces? What's that about? Huh? I do that to be funny sometimes, but, you know, and I will get mad at things, and things will aggravate me. And then I'll get it out of my system, but then I go solve the problem. I mean, that's what you have to do when you're on the road. And you've heard me say that in videos before. It is about problem solving. But sometimes you do get aggravated at things, and I'm probably guilty of letting it get the best of me sometimes. But then
Most of it's been about directions. The direction.
Yeah, we're not going to talk about that.
Those.
I don't think we're even going to go there.
But it's all in fun. I mean, we laugh about it, but yeah, there's going to be some tense moments, and just don't get into a big argument. If you think that's going to happen, just somebody read a book and somebody stand outside in the rain for a few minutes.
So anyway, friends, those are kind of our thoughts and tips on getting along together when you're traveling in those confined spaces. And for those of you that have done it, I'd like to hear your tips and your opinions on how you've managed to get along with someone else for those long periods of time. So put that down in the comment section. If you have any stories, if you have any tips along those lines, you know, we'd all like to see them and kind of share those. And now I'd like to make an impassioned plea. And this is going to be a bit off topic. But my mother used to complain that every product that she used and liked, that they would quit making. And I'm beginning to understand that. Because if you're my age, you know what certs are. And they stopped making certs a few years ago, in case you didn't notice. So I've been on 3 or 4 years now, whatever it's been, of pretty much a Retsin withdrawal. But taking what's out there, breast savers, cinnamon breast savers, They still make the mint ones, spearmint and peppermint ones, but apparently they stopped making the cinnamon ones. You can't find them anywhere now. I had a place that I had ordering me a whole box of those, and they didn't get them in. And I've looked at some places online, even Amazon. You can't get the cinnamon ones anymore, so I'm assuming they stopped making them. So here's my plea. If you walk into a convenience store somewhere and they have some old packs of cinnamon breast savers, or better yet, some 5-year-old packs of certs laying around, pick those things up for me and send them to me. So if you're wondering what to watch next, if you go down the description or down in the comments, you'll see links to other recent videos or things that you may have missed. Of course, we've got a lot of stuff coming. There's about a dozen different videos I'm working on. I've been promising you this stuff for a while. It's just these videos take a little bit longer to do. The ones about clothes and what we carry and what we don't in each vehicle and why we carry those and how we pack those. The van comparison videos, again, I have to get both vans into the same location. I'm working on finally getting that done so I can do those videos. So there's a lot of good stuff coming, and we'll see you soon.